Breaking news: Canada closes the Alaska Highway. Overnight, the only land route connecting Alaska to the rest of the U.S. was blocked by concrete barriers and official vehicles at the Yukon border. The message: the highway is closed, indefinitely. The world watched as a symbol of continental cooperation became a flashpoint. News helicopters showed lines of stranded trucks and cars. This wasn't a diplomatic spat. It was a physical blockade. For decades, the Alaska Highway was a promise of free passage and friendship. Today, that promise was broken. The immediate question: why? Ottawa cited vague national security and trade integrity concerns. But everyone knew this was about something bigger: a power play in response to escalating US-Canada trade disputes. Premier Eva Chura had weaponized geography, holding Alaska hostage to make a point. In Washington, politicians scrambled for answers. In Anchorage, panic set in. Governors and senators made frantic calls. The closure felt less like policy and more like economic war. The highway, built during Wabiwitu to unite and protect, was now a tool of division. The world held its breath, wondering what would happen next. The quiet, frozen north had become the hottest geopolitical flashpoint on the planet. The shockwaves were immediate. The vital artery was now a line in the sand. The crisis had begun. For hundreds on the Alaska Highway, the world simply stopped. One moment, they were driving through the Yukon. The next, they faced a wall of vehicles and officers. Many only learned of the closure at the roadblock itself, trapped, with winter closing in and supplies running low. Families sat in packed cars, children crying, dreams frozen just miles from their destination. Tourists, expecting northern lights, found themselves in a real-life drama. The uncertainty was terrifying. No one knew when or if the road would reopen. Truckers, hauling groceries and medical supplies, watched their cargo spoil and contracts break. Each hour meant lost money and mounting frustration. Small towns like Beaver Creek and Tok became makeshift refugee camps, their resources quickly overwhelmed. Motels filled, grocery stores emptied, and locals opened their homes. But as more vehicles arrived, chaos grew. The closure wasn't just a line on a map, it was a human crisis in one of the world's harshest environments. The stranded shared information, hope, and fear. The highway had become a lifeline cut, leaving hundreds in limbo. The cold was setting in, and so was desperation. The crisis was real, and it was only getting worse. Premier Eva Chura's decision was years in the making. Canada had endured aggressive US tariffs on lumber, syrup, steel, and aluminum. Diplomacy and legal challenges had failed. Ottawa felt ignored and bullied. Chura saw the Alaska Highway as unique leverage, a way to force Washington to listen. By closing it, she inflicted direct pain on Alaska, disrupting supply chains and creating crisis. Her gamble that economic chaos would force the U.S. back to the table. In her address, Chura was calm. "We value friendship, but it must be based on respect. The highway will reopen when our workers are treated fairly." The move was bold, shocking, and instantly redrew the lines of power in North America. Chura's message was clear: Canada would not be pushed around. The world took notice. The closure was not just about trade, it was about sovereignty. The stakes had never been higher. The game had changed. News of the closure reached Mar-a-Lago. Donald Trump wasted no time. On Truth Social, "Canada has closed the Alcan. An act of war. Weak leadership let this happen. I'd fix it in an hour." The post went viral, igniting outrage. Trump's response was immediate and confrontational, blaming the current administration's weakness. He claimed Canada would never have dared under his watch. His rhetoric turned a complex dispute into a story of national humiliation. Republicans rallied, demanding action. Trump suggested blockading Canadian goods and even hinted at military options. His words resonated with millions who felt America was being disrespected. The crisis became about American strength versus Canadian aggression. The nuances of trade were lost. What remained was a call for force. The standoff was now a test of national pride. The pressure on the White House was immense. The contrast was stark. Premier Chura, calm and methodical, framed the closure as a principled stand for fairness. She spoke of partnership, not battle, and avoided inflammatory language. Her strategy: appear reasonable, win international support, and play the long game. Trump, by contrast, turned the crisis into a boxing match. His response was emotional, personal, and designed to dominate headlines. He used words like disgrace and betrayal, casting America as the victim. Chura's calm was seen by some as weakness, Trump's storm as reckless. Where Chura used a scalpel, Trump wielded a sledgehammer. The two leaders embodied fundamentally different approaches to power and diplomacy. The world watched as their collision threatened to tear apart a historic alliance. The stakes were not just economic, but existential. The crisis was now as much about leadership as policy. The future of US-Canada relations hung in the balance. The world waited for the next move. Beyond politics, the real story was in the cabs of trucks and back seats of minivans. Dave Morrison, a trucker from Edmonton, watched his load of produce spoil. People in Alaska are waiting for this food. I'm hauling dinner for families. The Bradley family, moving to Alaska, sat stranded. Our whole new life is just on the other side of that barricade, said Sarah Bradley. In Talk, Alaska, gas stations ran low. Grocery shelves emptied, and the local clinic worried about medicine. The Alcan is our lifeline. Without it, we're an island, said the mayor. Businesses across Alaska felt the pain. Delayed equipment, lost contracts, empty stores. These weren't abstract statistics. They were real people, with real losses. The closure's human cost was immediate and severe. Communities pulled together, but resources were thin. The sense of isolation grew with each passing day. The crisis was no longer distant, it was personal. The highway closure was a political act, but its impact was heartbreakingly real. The stories from the road were a powerful reminder. Policy decisions have faces. The world saw the cost in every stranded family and every empty shelf. The standoff was hurting the most vulnerable. The pressure to resolve it was mounting. The human toll could not be ignored. This crisis was rooted in decades of trade disputes: softwood lumber, maple syrup, steel, and aluminum. The US accused Canada of unfair subsidies. Canada saw repeated tariffs as bullying. The latest tariffs pushed Canadian industries to the brink. Maple syrup, a source of national pride, was hit with new duties, an economic and cultural insult. Steel and aluminum tariffs, justified by national security, stung deeply. Canadians felt betrayed by their closest ally. Chura harnessed this resentment, connecting separate trade fights into one dramatic action. The highway closure was Canada's way of saying, enough. The era of quiet absorption was over. The Alaska Highway is more than a road. It's a lifeline, a symbol of unity built during Wabiwutu. For Alaskans, it's the route home, the artery for commerce, and a rite of passage. Its existence is rooted in trust and friendship between the US and Canada. Severing it is a profound act, turning a symbol of unity into one of division. The once friendly border is now a hard barrier. The closure feels like a betrayal of shared history. A family dispute turned cold. The practical problems are immense, but the psychological wound is deeper. The open road, a symbol of freedom, is now blocked by a political choice. The shock to the national psyche is real. The era of easy trust is over. The closure challenges what it means to be neighbors. The wound may last long after the barriers are gone. The world watches, alarmed. The US-Canada relationship, once a model of stability, is now a warning sign. The closure is more than a regional spat. It's a symptom of rising nationalism and fragile alliances. Global supply chains tremble. Companies scramble to reroute goods. Adversaries see opportunity. allies worry about America's reliability. Chura's drastic action sets a dangerous precedent. The lesson trust is fragile, and alliances are more than treaties. They're built on respect. The Alaska Highway standoff is a test. Can these old friends find their way back, or is this a new, colder era? The world waits for an answer.